My name is Barry Brown, and I am the Heritage Tourism Specialist with the Georgia Department of Economic Development. And about 5 years ago, I was working with the Georgia Civil War Commission on redoing the Civil War tour guide that was called Crossroads of Conflict. Now, back in the 1990s, the Civil War Commission had put out a small magazine form booklet with about 40 pages that they called Crossroads of Conflict, and it covered Civil War sites in Georgia done in alphabetical order, and it had no color photography and very few maps. And though we saw this as a really great tool to access more tourists to the state of Georgia, especially with the upcoming sesquicentennial, so me and my co-author, Dr. Rich Elwell, began working on expanding that small book into the 350-site Crossroads of Conflict we have today. The idea being, of course, that Georgia has hundreds of Civil War sites, not all mentioned in there, and we wanted to make an ideal tool for tourists in the state of Georgia to see the battlefields and historic sites that the state is full of.
Providing a comprehensive guide for tourists is a phenomenal tool in traveling and really seeing what Georgia has to offer in terms of Civil War history. You touch on it a little bit in your book that a lot of the imagery that you see from Georgia globally has to do with Gone with the Wind and setting the stage for the Civil War in Georgia in general. Do you believe that Crossroads of Conflict will attract more international tourists to the city, or how do you think that it will affect the image of Georgia globally?
It certainly won't be a Gone with the Wind, the largest selling fiction book of all time. However, I think that Gone with the Wind sparks an interest in the fact that Atlanta was under siege, Atlanta was burned, the state of Georgia suffered under a scorched earth policy under Sherman, and then of course it's built all around the love stories involved with the book. However, people are aware that there was a Civil War in Georgia, and some of them want to know more about that and the aspects of the battles, and that's the reason for Crossroads of Conflict, is to give, well, with the 350 sites, we give a write-up, a historic write-up on each one. We have them all maps, we have them on GPS coordinates for every site, and we try and make it easy to find and easy to visit, and they're spread out all over the 9 tourism regions of the state.
Great. What does Georgia have in regards to the Civil War history that other states in the South do not?
Well, Georgia was one of the states that was really heavily contested during the war, and well, Virginia, Mississippi, and Tennessee were as well. However, what Georgia has is Georgia had the Atlanta campaign, Georgia had the March to the Sea, and Georgia was the state that was responsible for the actual ending of the American Civil War. And let me explain that. In 1864, which was an election year, and the beginning of the Atlanta campaign, Abraham Lincoln was running against an old nemesis of his named George McClellan. Now, George McClellan was running on a ticket of allowing the South to remain as a separate nation from the North and to allow slavery to remain as an institution in the South. The war was not going well for Lincoln, and neither was the campaigning. And at the same time that the Atlanta campaign was occurring, and Sherman was slowly moving towards Atlanta but not capturing Atlanta, up in Virginia, General Grant and General Lee were boxed up into Petersburg, and they had a stalemate situation going there. And Lincoln had said shortly before the election, "I'm going to lose, and I'm going to lose badly." He needed a military victory on the field, and well, in September, actually September the 2nd of 1864, with the fall of Atlanta, Lincoln got the military victory he needed that pushed him over the top. He won the Republican nomination and won the Republican presidency over George McClellan, and he went on to end the Civil War with the outcome that we all are aware of as one nation and putting an end to the institution of slavery. And that's why Georgia is unique.
What are some of the global implications of Civil War? What did the U.S. Civil War mean to the world at the time?
The Civil War united the United States, and made it into one country, one nation that they would have to deal with as a trading partner, one nation they'd have to deal with as a military power. It really consolidated the United States and made it into what would become a world power by the early 20th century.
Are there lessons to be learned today as to how to recover from such a national crisis?
Well, the United States had a hard time recovering from that crisis. If you ever read the history of Reconstruction, it's a long, slow road, and it's a lot of compromise. And the South tried to, of course, reassert its power in different ways. And so there was a lot of lessons to be learned from that war. And I think the major lesson would be that war is the end of compromise. When compromise cannot be reached, war is an inevitable conclusion. So compromise is king.
I understand that the American Association for State and Local History, or the AASLH, recently presented Gordon R. Elwell, as well as yourself, with the Award of Merit for the publication of Crossroads of Conflict. How did you feel to learn that you had been chosen for this award?
Well, being that this is my first book, I'm really overwhelmed, and I'm very happy to have won a national award. History has always been an interest of mine, and to have an association like the AASLH give me an award is a great honor, and I'll be going up to Richmond, Virginia in September to receive the award.